We have a customer complaint of no cooling. She says that the heat worked fine all winter. She didn't really have any excessively high power bills. She turned the AC on. After a few hours, it just seemed like the temperature never really went down, was blowing out room temperature air. She did confirm that the heat pump on the outside was actually running, but it was making sound she was not accustomed to it making. So we'll stop by and see what we can find for her. It looks like we have nothing going on at all. Don't even feel any vibration with it. So let's take this guy apart and see what we find. We have no diagnostic lights, but we do have what appears to be a dual fuel board. Makes it a little easy for us just because we have some exposed terminals we can get to. But we just have a 24 volt in common run to it, so we can easily check our 24 volts right here, which we do have. Our yellow wire from our thermostat for a call for cool, we should see 24 volts, and we're just going to check the common there since it's easy to get to. But we should see 24 volts here for a call for cool, which we do. So we know we are in fact cooling, or at least being told to cool. Looks like we have this black and purple, or pink, and this yellow and pink wire seem to be running through probably our pressure switches. So we'll check this guy. So we do have 24 volts there, which tells us that either the high pressure or low pressure switch is open. Could be a damaged switch. Don't really know which one. Might have overpressured, could underpressure. So easiest thing to do would be to actually check the pressure here. So hook up our mighty manifold. And we have exactly 1 pound of pressure. So this unit is unfortunately leaking. So now we get to start the leak detection process. It may be something we can find quickly. Being as low as it is, it's probably a major leak. So what we'll likely do is add a little bit of nitrogen with a little bit of refrigerant and see if we can pick it up with our detector. So as we were thinking, it is a gas furnace, so it is a dual fuel unit. So let's crack this guy and see what we can find. So we do see a lot of rust on this guy, the galvanized plate rusting, but I don't really see anything that strikes me as oil. There's no oil in the drain pan either. Our detector is not going off, so even though it's rusty, it's not showing any actual signs of leakage. Outdoor unit, we didn't see any signs of leakage. One thing that I just thought about, the true suction port on that on the outside where I initially hooked my gauge up to check for the pressure, that did not have a cap on it, and with my manifold hooked to it, I wouldn't have seen any leak. So I kind of wonder if whomever serviced this last left that cap off, and that Schrader valve's leaking a little bit. So let's just take a look. So I would say that's probably our culprit. After talking to the homeowner, he decided to try some of this leak sealant. It's a dye and a sealant combination. So even if it doesn't manage to completely stop it up, it will at least show us where it's leaking. But for now, we're going to try to vacuum this guy down. Little cap just so handily has a Schrader tool on the top of it. So we can dip him in there, just unscrew it. Pull this little guy out. Theoretically, get him out of there. Oh, I just dropped it. Doesn't matter. We'll put another Schrader core in, a new one. Just tighten him up. And we have a nice solid O-ring in there. It's a brand new cap. So that should be our leak solved on this particular one. Alright, we're going to go ahead and break this vacuum a little bit. Just because I don't want to put that sealant capsule on there with a vacuum, just in case it sucks any air or non-condensables in. So we'll just put a little in there to break our vacuum. But easy enough. We have our little capsule here. They just screw on just like our manifold gauges do, or hoses rather. And it is got a Schrader on that end and a one-way valve on the other. We get a good nice connection. We hook our gauges back up, our manifold hose back up. See, there's a little pressure in my hose already pushing that stuff through. Okay, we've almost pulled in exactly 10 pounds without the compressor running. So we're going to let it sit here for a little while to kind of allow the refrigerant to equalize throughout. That way we're not accidentally liquid slugging the compressor. We'll turn the AC back on, plug it back in, and then ensure our charge is correct and go from there. Right now, after letting it operate for a few minutes, we see our PSIG corresponds with a vapor saturation of 27.1. So our suction line temperature being 87.5, we have a superheat of 60. So we're going to let this operate for a little while and equalize out. You can see that temperatures or pressures going up, which corresponds with that temperature going up, which corresponds with that one going down, kind of thing. So we're going to let it operate for a few minutes and equalize out. Once we kind of stabilize in about 10 or 15 minutes, we'll double check it and see where to go from there. It's been a few minutes now. We've kind of stabilized out. We are running an exactly 32-degree vapor sat. So we'll start adding a little refrigerant, and we're going to try to hit their targets here, but I'm also going to be watching the superheat. As I say, I don't want to risk any liquid flood back. So we'll start adding a little refrigerant to it. Okay, in this particular case, my math is showing that we need a 15.4 degree superheat. We're sitting right at a 16 degree, give or take. The vapor saturation point's a little over 40 degrees. Their chart is calling for 44 suction temperature on the line. We're showing 56.9, and they're looking for 123 pounds on the suction side of the gauges. Honestly, in this particular case, because that coil, don't really know how well it matches up. It's been used to make a dual fuel system on a furnace that we don't know how that matches up. So I am choosing to view this chart more as a general rule of thumb and trust my math, because I'm afraid, as I say, if I add too much more, we may be in territory of liquid slugback. And we'll call this one wrapped up and move along to the next one. That one was a good example about not getting too far ahead of yourself. We saw that the pressure switches were tripped, grabbed our gauges and our hoses, hooked it up to the easy to get to port. Didn't even occur to us that the reason it was easy to get to was because there was no cap on it. Was indeed low. Went through the whole leak procedure, checking indoor and out, scratching my head inside thinking, well, it's got to be leaking badly somewhere to have 1 pound of refrigerant on it. At that point thinking, wait a minute, I don't think that true suction actually had a cap on it. So we did indeed find that it was leaking, that Schrader core was leaking. Replaced it, put a new brass cap on it with a good O-ring. As we were charging that one, we did add some dye and some sealant just to be on the safe side, and trying to charge it per manufacturer's suggestions. That's exactly what it was somewhat of a suggestion. They did not really give us enough information to charge the unit completely. That was more of a hookup check kind of thing and say good enough. Me being that was a dual fuel system with a furnace of unknown origin and not entirely sure if that coil really matched up, we just went ahead and used math, went through our psychrometer and our temperatures to figure out exactly what our superheat should be and charged it from that direction. But we'll move on to the next one and see what we can find.